Chapter 3 Long Legs Killer Weapon. The group of little friends were all stunned. They covered their eyes and screamed in fear and crawled into the cave. The children had never been more than a kilometer away from the cave, nor had they participated in hunting. They had never seen such a bloody scene. Only 2 or 3 brave boys continued to watch, and Luocheng was among them. Luocheng was actually very scared too. Although he had killed many enemies in his previous life, that was in his previous life. With his current small body, he was not even as tall as the legs of the terror bird. Going up to fight head-on would definitely be courting death. He still had this self-knowledge. The 2 adults who ran back with the leader saw that the leader was dead, so they quickly threw away the eggs, ran to the edge of the jungle, and climbed up a tree. It can be said that they are lucky. Just now, when the 3 of them ran back together, the leader shouted the loudest, and he had a green feather crown on his head. He was the most conspicuous among the 3, and he took away all the hatred. 2 people climbed up the tree, and the leader was dead. The moa lost its target, but the child screaming just now attracted its attention. The moa instantly turned its head towards the cave, saw several people in the cave, and rushed into the cave. Quack! The sharp screams scared away the 2 friends who were standing at the cave entrance with Luocheng. The pregnant woman in the cave ran to the entrance and began to push a spherical boulder to block the cave, but they did not have much strength and pushed too slowly, so Luocheng hurried forward to help. "Come here and push the stone." The boulder began to roll slowly, but the speed of the moa was also very fast. Luocheng quickly called on his friends to help, but the children were still huddled in the haystack and shivering, and some were crying loudly with fear. In the end, only the 2 brave boys came to help. Several people worked together to push the boulder, and the speed of the boulder rolling increased a bit. Boom, boom, boom. The heavy footsteps were getting closer and closer. Just when the entrance of the cave was only 30 centimeters away from being blocked, there was a click and a huge bird's beak stretched out from the gap in the cave. Ga! A loud sound rang out in the cave, and the children in the haystack started screaming in fear again. "Shut up, everyone. Whoever starts crying will be thrown out." Luocheng yelled at the children in the haystack. Although the children did not understand what Luocheng said, they were still frightened by his ferocious appearance. The haystack suddenly became quiet. The children with tears in their eyes did not dare to cry out loud, and their bodies twitched from holding their tears. Luocheng was very satisfied with the effect. He and several adults quietly hid behind the huge rock at the entrance of the cave, using their bodies to hold the rock. For a moment, the cave fell completely silent. No one made a sound, not even daring to breathe loudly. The moa could only stick its mouth through the gap. It was impossible for it to get in. The moa's neck was very strong. Even an adult saber-toothed tiger did not dare to provoke it easily. The huge bird's beak could easily peck down and break the saber-toothed tiger's neck, but that was using downward force. It could not use its neck to push the boulder away horizontally. The moa cackled a few more times, but still couldn't get in. It had no choice but to give up and turned around to search for its target outside again. Hearing its footsteps leaving, everyone couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The children wanted to speak again, but Luocheng glared at them and stopped talking. Then Luocheng put a finger in front of his mouth to silence them, but when he looked at the children, there was only confusion in their eyes. They didn't know what he meant. Luocheng frowned and showed them the gesture of covering his mouth with his hands again. This time they understood it, and several children followed suit and covered their mouths with their own hands. This is human instinct and nature. Children always imitate the adults around them. For example, little girls will secretly wear their mother's high heels, and little boys will learn to smoke from their father. They think that this person is very powerful, so they will involuntarily imitate and learn. The fierce side of Luocheng just now has shocked them, and he always does things that others can't understand. So in the eyes of those children, Luocheng is very powerful. Seeing that the situation was under control, Luocheng quietly walked to the gap at the entrance of the cave and looked out. The moa had not left yet. It might be looking for the other 2 egg thieves, but those 2 guys were still on the tree. The moa rushed over and jumped up to peck at them, but those 2 guys climbed very high and the moa couldn't reach them. Later, the moa ignored them and turned to walk to the leader's body and began to peck at the leader's body. Luo Chong observed for a while and decided to keep the moa. This creature now eats human flesh and also knows where their tribe lives. If they don't get rid of it, there is no guarantee that it will come here to find food when it is hungry. Who knows how many people will die then? But there were no weapons now. Spears did not exist. Fighting with sticks would be suicidal. Throwing stones from a long distance would have little killing power if they were small, and would be difficult to throw if they were big. Luo Chong looked at the moa again. Its two long legs made Luo Chong's eyes light up and instantly reminded him of an ancient tool for capturing prisoners. Yes, it is a slingshot. Actually, there are two types of weapons called slingshot. One is the most common one, which is a rope with a slightly wider cloth in the middle. It can hold a stone, and then swing it in your hand a few times to throw the stone out through centrifugal force. This can make the stone gain a greater initial velocity and increase the impact force. What Luo Chong was going to do was another way. He would tie a stone on each end of a rope, grab the middle rope with both hands, and rotate it. The stones on both ends would straighten the rope through centrifugal force, and it would rotate like a helicopter propeller. Then he would throw the rotating slingshot towards the cylindrical target. The two stones would quickly wrap around the target several times with the rope and tie up the target. Luo Chong's target was the two legs of the moa. This slingshot is usually used to capture prisoners because it does not cause harm to the target, but only serves as a restraint. It does not require a lot of practice and is very simple to make. Luo Chong quickly looked for materials. There were stones by the fire pit in the middle of the cave, which were used to surround the fire. Luo Chong picked up two pieces that were slightly larger than his fist, but he couldn't find a rope. The vines collected in the morning were still outside the cave, and those vines were not soft enough and could not be used. All the adults and children in the cave were looking at him, wondering what he was doing. This child had been doing inexplicable things all day long. Luo Chong gritted his teeth, glanced at his naked friends, and ruthlessly took off the snake skin that was used as a loincloth. For future safety, the face and other things were put aside for now. The snake skin was 3 or 4 meters long, and a stone was tied on one side, leaving more than 2 meters in the middle, which was enough. With weapons and equipment ready, Luo Chong rushed out of the cave with a simple slingshot. A pregnant woman wanted to hold Luo Chong back, but failed. She didn't dare to shout for fear of attracting the terror bird back, so she could only look outside anxiously to see what Luo Chong was going to do. Many friends also gathered at the entrance of the cave out of curiosity. A row of heads were stuffed in the gap of the cave from top to bottom, clearly wanting to be spectators.